Imagine standing in a trench on the Western Front, 1916. The world around you is a maze of mud and misery, stretching as far as the eye can see. Rain has turned the world into a sea of mud. Every step is a struggle, your boots sucked down by the thick, wet earth. Water is everywhere, soaking your uniform, pooling at your feet, filling the air with the stench of decay. The dampness seeps into your bones, chilling you to the core. Yet you are desperately thirsty. Your lips crack, your throat burns, and every thought is consumed by the need for a single, clean sip. The water all around you is undrinkable, poisoned by chemicals, waste, and the detritus of war. Even the rain, once a symbol of life, now brings only more danger. To drink from a puddle is to risk sickness or death. Dysentery, cholera, and other diseases lurk in every drop. Soldiers quickly learned that the water was a cruel mirage, a basic need turned into a deadly threat. The promise of relief was always just out of reach. Thirst became a constant ache, a reminder of vulnerability in a hostile landscape. It gnawed at morale, sapping strength and hope alike. The fight for clean water was as relentless as the threat of enemy fire. Men risked their lives for a few precious drops, braving bullets and shells. Water rations were issued before attacks, but they were never enough. The small allowance barely wet your lips, let alone quenched your thirst. When supply lines broke, canteens ran dry, and thirst became an obsession. Men would dream of water, haunted by memories of cool streams back home. The landscape mocked the soldiers. After rain, shell craters glittered with water, tempting men to risk their lives for a drink. The very earth seemed to taunt their suffering. Crawling out to reach these pools meant facing machine gun fire and snipers. The price of a mouthful could be your life. Even if reached, the water was likely as contaminated as the mud in the trench. The risk of disease was ever present, a silent enemy lurking in every puddle. This was the paradox of trench life, surrounded by water, yet dying of thirst. The abundance was an illusion, a daily torment. The struggle for a mouthful of clean water defined daily existence. Every drop was precious, every sip a small victory against despair. It was a personal battle, waged every hour, forcing impossible choices. Do you drink now or save what little you have for later? The very elements became enemies, and survival meant resisting the false promise of water. Rain, once a blessing, was now a curse. In the trenches, thirst was not just discomfort, it was a matter of life and death. The agony of thirst shaped every moment, every decision. The cruel mirage of water encapsulated the soldiers' plight, surrounded by what they needed most, yet unable to claim it. In this endless struggle, thirst became both an enemy and a symbol of the war's relentless hardship. Bullets weren't the only killers. Disease lurked in every drop of water. Dysentery, typhoid, and cholera thrived in the unsanitary trenches, where latrines overflowed and bacteria spread rapidly. A sip of unpurified water could mean weeks of agony or death. Dysentery left soldiers weak and dehydrated, unable to fight or even stand. Typhoid was even more feared, often fatal without proper care. Soldiers became deeply suspicious of any water not officially purified. The invisible war against disease was as relentless as the fight against the enemy. An army weakened by sickness could not hope to survive. Dehydration was a silent enemy, especially during the relentless summer offensives when the sun turned the trenches into ovens and every breath felt heavy. Soldiers lost water fast. First came dry mouths, then muscle cramps, confusion, and even terrifying hallucinations as the body and mind began to fail. Physical and mental decline could be fatal in battle, robbing men of the strength and clarity they desperately needed to survive. A single battered canteen had to last through endless hours of fighting, sometimes even days, forcing men to ration every precious drop. Wounded men stranded in shell holes cried out for water, their desperate pleas echoing across the battlefield, often going unanswered. Supplying water to advancing troops was a logistical nightmare, with water carts bogged down in mud and enemy fire making every delivery a deadly risk. Water carriers risked their lives, but many soldiers had to ration every sip, never knowing when the next refill might come. The fight against dehydration was both personal and psychological, testing each man's willpower and resolve in the face of constant thirst. Every decision, drink now or save for later, was a gamble, a choice between immediate relief and future survival. The constant thirst was another burden, fought inside the mind as much as on the battlefield, wearing down even the strongest spirits. In the chaos of war, a lack of water could be as deadly as any bullet, claiming lives in silence and shadow. Survival depended on discipline, luck, and the hope of resupply, a hope that kept men going, even as their canteens ran dry. Supplying water to the front was a dangerous, complex operation, fraught with obstacles at every stage. Water was purified far behind the lines, then transported in tanks, carts, and petrol tins, often still tainted by the taste of fuel. Even after purification, the water was rarely fresh, and soldiers had to accept whatever they could get. The journey forward was perilous. Roads were shelled, carts were slow targets, and carrying parties risked death in the trenches. Every trip was a gamble with fate, as enemy fire could strike at any moment. Delivering water to the front lines required crawling across open ground under fire, often at night, with every movement watched by enemy snipers. A single shell could wipe out a water party and leave a company parched for days, forcing survivors to ration every precious drop. Water carriers were unsung heroes, their mission essential but deadly. They braved the worst conditions, knowing their comrades depended on them. During major battles, supply lines often broke down, leaving battalions isolated and desperate, cut off from even the most basic necessities. When the system failed, soldiers relied on ingenuity to survive, collecting rainwater, digging for groundwater, or sharing what little they had. The arrival of water rations was a godsend, their absence a nightmare that haunted every man at the front. The struggle to deliver water was a battle in itself, fought with courage and determination against overwhelming odds. Without it, survival was left to chance and resourcefulness, as thirst became yet another enemy on the battlefield. Chemistry became a weapon. Chlorine was used to purify water on a massive scale. Soldiers were issued tablets or ampules to treat their canteens, turning contaminated water into something drinkable. The process was simple but vital: add, shake, wait. The taste was foul, but the alternative was deadly disease. Muddy water reduced chlorine's effectiveness, so soldiers had to follow instructions carefully. Too little chlorine, and germs survived. Too much, and the water was undrinkable. Despite the taste, most soldiers accepted chlorinated water as the price of survival. Purification was imperfect, but it saved countless lives. When official supplies failed, soldiers improvised. Boiling water over small Tommy cookers killed germs, but fires risked enemy attention. Makeshift filters, tin cans layered with pebbles, sand, cloth and charcoal, helped clear muddy water before boiling or treating. Rainwater was collected using ponchos or ground sheets, funneled into canteens, cleaner than any ground source. Every drop was treasured, a small victory against the environment. In stable sectors, soldiers dug shallow wells, lining them with sandbags to access cleaner groundwater. Even these wells needed purification, but they offered hope. Survival depended on creativity, knowledge, and teamwork. The battle for water was fought with ingenuity as much as with weapons. In the trenches, resourcefulness was as vital as courage. Desperation drove men to risk everything for water from shell craters. Fresh rainwater in a crater could seem like salvation, but older pools were deadly, filled with corpses, chemicals, and disease. Crawling out to reach a crater meant facing snipers and machine guns. Some made it back, only to fall ill from the poisoned water. The The choice was brutal: risk death for a drink or endure the agony of thirst. These moments revealed the primal struggle for survival. The image of a soldier risking all for a mouthful of water is one of the war's most tragic symbols. The battle for water was central to the soldier's experience, life and death in every drop. The fight for water in World War I is a lesson in resilience and ingenuity. Soldiers became experts in survival, filtering, boiling, and rationing water as a matter of life and death. Their teamwork and resourcefulness were essential, teaching us the value of community in crisis. Today, we take clean water for granted, but the trench experience reminds us how fragile that security is. Knowing how to find and purify water remains a vital skill. The struggle for water connects us to a universal human need, one that still defines survival for millions. Where there is water, there is hope, and the knowledge to make it safe is the ultimate survival tool.